I'm Trish.
And I'm Brandi.
And you're listening to episode 22 of
Connected Conversations. This is your space for real talk about international education, where we unpack the things that shape teaching and learning abroad, especially when they're more complicated than they first appear.
You've joined us for the 4th episode in our 5-part mini-series on student behavior in international schools.
In this mini-series, we first zoomed out. We looked at why behavior abroad is so often misdiagnosed, how school policies succeed or fail, and how parent expectations quietly shape what actually happens in classrooms.
And if you've been listening along and thinking, okay, but what does that mean for my classroom? Then this episode is for you.
Today's episode is part of our Teacher Toolbox series, where we share practical strategies, tips, and tools to strengthen your international teaching practices.
This is the first of 2 payoff episodes that we're going to give you in this mini-series. It's not about revisiting theory.
We are not re-explaining culture, mobility, or parent dynamics.
We are focusing on what actually helps you when you're managing behavior day to day in your international classroom.
This episode is for those of you who care deeply, who are reflective, and who still feel like the strategies they used in their home countries don't always translate cleanly abroad.
So we're going to walk through some concrete systems, classroom routines, and language that you can use to reduce friction, protect student dignity, and help you feel steadier as a teacher.
Make sure to check the show notes for the unique resources we've built for you to support your classroom behavior, no matter where you are.
Think of this episode as your international behavior toolbox, grounded, realistic, and usable.
So grab a notebook and let's get connected.
Let's start off with the part that honestly does most of the heavy lifting when it comes to behavior in our classrooms. The systems we establish in week 1 of the school year.
Yeah, if expectations are unclear in those first few weeks, you spend the rest of the year chasing behavior instead of teaching content.
And this is especially true internationally, where students arrive with very different ideas of what school is supposed to look like.
One of the strongest research-based strategies in international settings is this idea of teaching behavior the same way you teach academic content. You can't assume it. And you can't vaguely remind students about the behavior as well. You have to teach it down to the nitty-gritty, smallest bits.
That means short, explicit routines that are revisited daily for the first 2 weeks for sure. 5 minutes a day, 1 expectation at a time. And this aligns directly with UNESCO's positive discipline in the classroom guidance, which emphasizes that behavior improves when expectations are taught proactively rather than corrected reactively.
And that word proactive definitely matters. You're not waiting for behavior to go wrong before you intervene. So instead of saying, remember how we line up, you actually teach it again. You model it, you practice it, you narrate it. And if a student joins mid-year, then you ask another student, can you please show our new friend how we line up quietly and calmly?
I've witnessed Brandi using this simple primary level script that I think sounds so cute in her classroom. It's in this classroom, lining up looks like hands by your sides, voices off, and eyes forward. Let's practice this together.
Yes, you've heard me say that
I don't
before.
do that in my secondary class. Sorry, Brandi.
But one tip here is to practice interactive modeling. I've used interactive modeling in classrooms with learners who don't speak a word of English, as well as large classes with crazily rambunctious students. And I will confidently tell you, it's the most effective way of teaching routines and expectations.
There are 7 steps to the interactive modeling model. Yes, 7. Are they all necessary? Yes, they are. Okay. Are they relative to any age group of students? Yes, they also are. So, step 1, explain the importance and purpose of the routine you're going to teach. This can be as simple as how you walk into the room before class.
Step 2, tell the students to watch you do the routine. Do it without narrating. If you're walking into the class, this might look like opening the door, saying hello to the teacher, sitting in your seat, and whisper talking to a friend next to you. After modeling the routine, join your group of students and move on to step number 3. Ask what they noticed you do.
After a few responses, jump to step 4. Ask 1 or 2 students to model the routine for the whole class. Step 5, ask the class to notice what those students did.
Step 6, direct the entire class to now complete the routine.
And step 7, share what the class did. Talk about it. At this point, you can also consider making a visual to put up in your classroom for future reminders.
And the most important piece of teaching routines and expectations is that you don't just do this once in August and then move on.
No, you reteach it daily for 2 weeks, as we said, and then you shift into those weekly refreshers, especially after holidays, long weekends, all of that, right? And also, especially after new students arrive. Don't forget, there's also that time when behavior starts to slip.
Oh, yes. Yeah. When that happens, and it always does, we see you all out there. Yeah. It's exhausting putting out those little fires of behavior that you constantly grumble to yourself, I already taught this. Instead, take a break, reteach your class or your students, and remind, using interactive modeling perhaps, what the expectation is.
This is not a sign of weak behavior. It's a sign of a professional system.
And the next piece is visibility. Expectations cannot live only in your head or in a policy document that no one reads. In strong international classrooms, expectations are visible, they're concrete, and they also are student-friendly.
That means visuals, modeling, role play, and consistent language. One phrase we encourage teachers to use is, "This looks like and sounds like," because it makes those expectations like really crystal clear.
Yeah. For example, instead of saying, "Be respectful," while your class is listening to a presentation, you might say, "Respectful listening looks like eyes on the speaker, hands still, waiting until the speaker finishes. It sounds like silent feet, silent hands, and a silent mouth."
That removes judgment and it replaces it with clarity, especially for those EAL learners. You know, it also reduces cultural misunderstanding because you're not assuming shared definitions of respect. Role play is especially powerful, as you saw here.
Definitely. 5 minutes of acting out what lining up looks like, or how to ask for help, or how to disagree respectfully can prevent weeks of confusion later. And did we already mention interactive modeling? You can do that.
Maybe. Okay. This approach is strongly supported in whole school behavior research, including the current UNESCO and UNICEF guidance around clarity, predictability, and explicit teaching.
The third prevention tool here is reinforcement. And this is where international classrooms benefit from a very specific approach. Reinforcement should be small, frequent, culturally neutral, and tied to routines, not personality, not labels, and not comparison. So instead of saying, "You're such a good student," you say something like, "Thank you for waiting your turn. That helps everyone learn."
Or in the middle and high school setting, that might sound like, "I appreciate you sharing, being so focused and taking notes while discussing quietly with your partners." These are all strong collaborative working skills. Point out the specific behavior that you're identifying as positive, and bonus points if you can also throw in that positive behavior and how it helps the group.
Definitely. By pointing out how the positive behavior helps the group, you're also subconsciously taking yourself as the teacher out of the equation for why the student is behaving positively. They're seeing the positive effects of their choices on their peers.
Yeah, most educators know the power of positive reinforcement. Yeah. We parents do too. It's literally like a little magic trick we have up our sleeve. You have some students who are doing XYZ and you don't want them to do XYZ. So
instead of creating negative reinforcement, "Hey, you kids, stop doing XYZ," you praise the students who are doing the behaviors that you're looking for. ABC. "Thank you so much for doing ABC. I really appreciate how you're helping the group get ready for the next activity."
Oh, yes. And like magic, you've got those other students looking around for praise as soon as they see someone doing ABC. I used to activate these positive rewards models when I was in a school where we gave behavior and learner attribute house points, right? So I would pretty soon be putting in so many things into our learning management system. There wasn't even enough time in the day to enter all the great things I was seeing both inside and outside of my classroom.
Oh, I love that. But beware, the magic will turn to dirt. Then if you don't then praise the students who changed their behavior.
Yep. And that's so true. I've seen far too many teachers use this trick and then say, good, now they're doing what I want. And then those students learn really quickly, hey, like, why should I do what they did if I don't get the reward that they did for it?
Exactly. You know? It's such a good point. Reminder, you have to recognize and praise the ones that change their behavior. Even if they're at the beginning of that journey and not always getting it right just yet, they are clearly trying.
It's important to realize that praise can land very differently across cultures too. Yeah. Some students are uncomfortable with public praise. Some associate it with competition. They want it too. Some don't know what to do with it. That's where knowing a little bit about the cultural backgrounds and norms of your students that really comes into play. We discussed this in earlier episodes in this series.
When you reinforce routines instead of people, you reduce that tension. This aligns directly with UNESCO's emphasis on nonviolent, non-punitive, proactive discipline strategies.
The goal is not to control student behavior. No. It's to build good habits. Predictable reinforcement also helps students feel safe. When they know what will be noticed and why it'll be noticed, behavior stops feeling like a guessing game.
Let's name why this matters so much in international schools. Many students are navigating language load, transition stress, and cultural adjustment all at the same time. When expectations are vague, those students are the first to struggle with the first act, and also the first to act out in the traditional sense of behavior issues.
Right. And clear routines really reduce this cognitive load on students. Visible expectations reduce anxiety. Predictable reinforcement builds trust. And when trust is present, behavior stabilizes and a sense of safety and student well-being flourishes.
And this is why schools who embed and reinforce these systems at the start of the year often report fewer escalations later.
So if you're listening and you're thinking, I don't have time to reteach routines, we want to gently challenge you that you don't have time not to.
Exactly.
Okay? 5 minutes now will save you hours down the line. Your future self will be grateful.
It's so true. And that's why week 1 or start of the school year systems do about 80% of the heavy workload on the behavior realm.
Once you have your strong routines in place, the next question teachers often ask is, okay, what do I do in the moment when behavior starts to go off track?
And this is where international classrooms really demand a different lens because not every behavior needs the same response.
One of the most helpful frameworks we've seen in international settings comes from the culturally responsive work done in the US called PBIS, which stands for Positive Behavior Intervention and Supports, including resources from the Delaware MTS Technical Assistance Center. All of these references and resources are linked below in the show notes if you'd like to take a look too.
Yes, the key idea is simple but powerful. Before you correct, pause and ask yourself a few questions.
First question, is this a safety issue, a learning issue, or a norm mismatch? By norm mismatch, we mean that my sense of what is normal behavior in a situation may not match your sense of normal behavior and what that is. So safety issues, of course, need to be immediate intervention, right? No debate there.
But learning issues and norm mismatches give you room to teach rather than deal out a negative consequence. And internationally, a lot of what gets labeled as misbehavior is actually a norm mismatch.
Yeah, which leads to the second question. What does respect look like in this child's home culture? Because respect does not look the same everywhere.
In some cultures, looking at adult in the eye is respectful, but in others, it can be confrontational. In some cultures, speaking out shows engagement. In others, waiting quietly is the expectation.
So if we correct behavior without checking our cultural lens, we can accidentally punish students for doing exactly what they were taught at home. And that's where resentment, shutdown, and escalation often begins.
And this is where relationship building becomes absolutely central. When we jump straight to accusing, blaming, or overlaying our own interpretation onto behavior, we create distance. We close the door to understanding before it even opens. And the same goes for asking aggressive questions like, what was going through your head? Or what do you think you're doing? Students learn very quickly to shut down to this type of pressure.
Yeah, the third question here is crucial. Have I explicitly taught this expectation in a way that this child can actually access?
Especially when language is involved, a student who doesn't fully understand the instruction may look defiant, distracted, or disengaged, when in reality, they're just overwhelmed or unsure of what success even looks like. Students struggling here benefit from directions stated clearly, slowly, and only one at a time in the moment.
Filling the air with all those extra words and questions can really add to the data load the student is trying to process.
Yeah.
You can also consider using visual cues like miming or flashcards or classroom posters. And this can't be done only once. Expectation instruction is a cyclical process, especially for your EAL learners. Students should hear and see the expectations reviewed regularly.
And when behavior needs to be addressed privately, the most important part of that conversation is not correction, it's safety.
A student will only be honest and vulnerable with you when they feel safe enough to tell the truth.
Yes. That means we have to resist the urge to dive into a long conversation to tell a student why they were wrong.
Yeah. Instead, we have to listen, and that starts with asking questions.
When we create space for students to talk, we often learn things that completely shift our understanding. We might learn about cultural expectations at home, family dynamics, challenging friendship dynamics, maybe even previous school experiences or other pressures we didn't even know existed.
And this is why relationship building is not a soft add-on.
Yeah.
It's the foundation of culturally responsive correction.
So let's talk about what to actually do in the moment. One of the most effective approaches is neutral correction plus teach. That means stating what you see, naming the expectation, and showing what to do next.
Okay, so for example, instead of saying, stop interrupting, you might say, I see you want to share. Wanting to share looks like us raising our hand and waiting with a quiet body. Let's practice that. No blame, no lecture, just clarity and practice.
Sometimes you need to stop a behavior quickly, though. And even in this case, point out what to do next. If Bob is interrupting loudly, put up a hand and simply say, stop. I'll wait for you to raise your hand quietly.
For some of you, these things sound so simple, but for most of us, they can really be an easier said than done strategy when you're in the moment and your patience is running really short.
I know, we've all been there. Choice language is another powerful tool here, especially in cultures where saving face and maintaining dignity matter deeply. You're still holding that boundary, but you're also offering autonomy within it.
One example sounds like, you can join us on the carpet now, or you can take a minute at your desk and then join when you're ready.
The expectation doesn't change, but the path to meeting it does.
And one strategy we cannot overstate in international schools is the importance of private redirect and public belonging. Correct privately whenever possible, but praise and reinforce publicly. I'm sure most of us can remember that one teacher in our lives, hopefully it was just one, who publicly embarrassed us for something we did wrong. Those moments often stick with us far into adulthood and sometimes cost good money in therapy. So let's agree that if you know better, you should do better.
Yeah, definitely. And the idea that the students in your class want to witness their teacher publicly shaming their classmate and that it doesn't affect them deeply also has a profound effect. You're not gaining power.
I was just speaking with an educator in a Czech school who said that one of her students witnessed a boy being called to the front of the room for talking excessively, but then he was humiliated by the teacher with a bunch of questions at the front that he just couldn't answer. No one enjoyed the group shaming of this boy, and the rest of the class actually lost a lot of respect for the teacher that day.
Oof, that's rough.
Yeah.
Private corrective conversations protect student dignity and reduce those power struggles. Jot down the student's name and time on a little note if you need to have a side conversation with the student at a later time. This small shift in simply when you have a conversation can make the difference between building or destroying a relationship and the trust with a student.
It also prevents other students from learning that correction equals public embarrassment in this room. I can't tell you how many times these quick after class conversations help me as a high school teacher, especially with a lot of my vocal boys. I was telling Brandi that many of them even thanked me that I didn't say something in class. I just stopped them and I said, we'll talk about this later. And their behavior definitely improved in the days to come. And often my mom's stern look was enough to remind them then a week later that they were approaching that thin ice again.
Yeah, we perfect that mom look.
We know the look.
And when that private conversation happens, you got to lead with curiosity.
Yeah.
Ask questions like, tell me what happened when, and listen more than you speak.
Because when students feel heard, they're far more likely to reflect honestly and to take responsibility.
Research consistently shows that when students feel respected during correction, behavior improves faster and relationships stay intact.
This is not about being permissive.
No, this is about being precise.
And when corrections are clear, calm, and culturally aware, students learn the expectation instead of just feeling wrong.
And that's the goal.
Yeah, because behavior systems that work internationally don't rely on fear and shame. They rely on clarity, consistency, and respect. Let's talk about transitions because behavior and transitions are inseparable.
Absolutely. International classrooms are built on constant movement.
Yep.
New students are arriving, others are leaving, families are relocating. There's long holidays, there's short contracts.
In middle and high school, transitions also add in the 7 different physical location classroom transitions that a student typically makes in the day. And we often label all of this as like behavior issues, but they're actually just responses to transitions.
Yeah, control seeking, withdrawal, emotional reactivity, testing boundaries.
Yep. Research on third culture kids and international transition experiences show this again and again. When students are navigating change, their nervous systems are like working in overtime.
Yeah, and that research is well documented in international transition studies, including work from the UK University of Sheffield's Life Guidance and Family Center, which looks closely at how mobility impacts children's emotional regulation and behavior.
One of the simplest and most effective strategies is a structured transition check-in conversation, especially for new students. And especially after long breaks.
This does not need to be complicated or time-consuming either. A couple of minutes once a week for the first month. Many times this can be a way of building connection in your homeroom as a class teacher or in your morning meetings or circle time.
The goal is not to fix anything. It's simply to notice.
Right. A simple check-in might include questions like, what's feeling easy for you this week? What's feeling tricky? Who do you go to for help when you need it?
These questions open the door to understanding before behavior escalates.
The key to transition check-ins is that they are proactive, not reactive.
You're not waiting for behavior to break down before you step in. You're building connection and predictability early.
Another international specific strategy we strongly recommend is a buddy system.
But not a vague one.
Yeah.
A structured one.
Right. Simply telling a student, go sit next to them. It's not enough.
No. A strong buddy system includes clear prompts like show them where things go, explain the daily routines, sit together at lunch once a week, walk them through arrival and departure routines.
Of course, you can adapt how scripted or open you are with this system, depending on the age of your students and the complexities of your class or school. We like to err on the side of structure when building a buddy system, though.
Yeah, I've heard a teacher or two tell a student, be the new teacher's buddy for their first week. And without a checklist of what that looks like, the new student actually is quite left out.
Yeah.
And sometimes the buddy student even feels punished because they have a week of being with the new kid, but with no clear direction or responsibilities given to them.
Right. It might be good to make a visual reminder for those younger students as well, or walk through what a buddy says or does before the new student is set to arrive.
For older students, buddy guidance might look like a checklist of information to share or a thorough conversation and agreement beforehand of what to do or what to cover. Maybe asking for buddy volunteers isn't a bad idea as they get older too.
I bet. All of this reduces cognitive load for new students and gives them a peer anchor in an unfamiliar environment, which research consistently shows improves both well-being and behavior.
Predictable routines are another critical transition support, especially around arrivals, departures, and those Monday morning after the weekend moments.
Weekend stories can be wonderful, but for some international students, weekends look very different. Some travel, some switch languages, some spend their weekend in boarding and do very little, or they do so much, while other students experience weekend separation or reintegration stress.
For me, often working in boarding schools, I stopped asking the standard, how was your weekend on Monday mornings? Because of the whole wide gaps between some students who had a lot of parent interaction in my classroom and then others who were somewhat disconnected from their folks. And I saw that weight on them, So I saw that my context made that predictable routine question not a benefit for the whole community.
Meanwhile, this has been an absolute go-to for me as a quick and easy opportunity to build connection and relationship with my primary and early year students. Perhaps it's only the younger ones who are excited to share however boring or exciting their weekend was, though. I've never worked in a boarding school, so I can see how this simple question might invoke a different type of response depending on the context you're in.
Yeah, so when we start off the day jumping straight into academic expectations without like grounding transitions, having simple check-ins, like behavior can really wobble. This is why clear transition rituals matter so much.
Things like a consistent morning check-in, a calm start task, or a predictable sharing structure. My personal favorite is a choice of greeting. I put out 3 choices the day before, and my students practice saying hello to me in their choice as they enter the room. For example, I might have a picture of a high five, a side hug, or a wave, and they get to choose.
Nice. I've also seen some pretty cool video snippets out there where teachers have secret handshakes with each of their students, and that is the greeting.
It's so cool.
Such a cool idea.
Yeah.
But as for me, I'm old school. I'm a greet you at the door type of teacher. I have a conversation with you type of teacher. I think it sets a nice warm welcome to my classroom and like prepares them for the conversation we're about to have coming soon.
Yeah, definitely. But whatever it is, consider it an opportunity to build connections with each of your students. Something that is crucial no matter what, but even more so in an international setting because language and cultural barriers might be present.
These routines signal safety to students. And when students feel safe, their behavior stabilizes.
One practical tool teachers can use alongside this is a 2-minute transition screener. This can be run weekly for the first month with new students or after long breaks. It's not an assessment, it's a quick reflective check.
Questions might include, is the student settling into routines? Are peer connections forming? Are there signs of heightened emotional response or withdrawal? This helps teachers respond with support rather than surprise.
And here's the key reframe. Behavior during transition is communication, not defiance, not disrespect.
It's a signal that a student is still finding their footing.
When transitions are planned for intentionally, behavior stops feeling unpredictable.
And it starts really feeling understandable. And that changes everything about how we respond to it.
Let's take a quick pause here because this is a lot.
So if you're listening and thinking, I want to come back to this with a clearer head, that's exactly why we're building out tools and resources alongside these episodes.
You don't need to capture everything right now. We'll link the tools and resources to help you with these behavior strategies so you can engage with it when it actually fits with your week.
Now, we need to talk about what happens after the behavior has gone off track because correction is one thing, but repair is what determines whether the relationship gets stronger or weaker.
Repair might have to work across language, culture, and amongst very different beliefs about authority and shame.
And this is where rights-based approaches really matter. UNICEF's work on safe learning environments and nonviolent discipline consistency reinforces a core idea of this. Behavior management should protect dignity and safety, and it should teach, not humiliate.
So let's start with the biggest rule for repair in international settings. Avoid public shame.
Yep.
We cannot stress this enough. We know it is the most natural thing in the world to call out that student when they are misbehaving. But calling out a student when they are around their friends might get you what you want in the moment, sure. But ultimately, it's going to take a toll on your classroom community and or your relationship with that particular student.
Especially in cultures where face and status matter deeply. Public correction can create compliance in the moment, but it often damages trust long term. It also teaches the class that mistakes here equal humiliation, which is a fast track to hiding behavior instead of learning from it. You'll quickly get yourself a quiet back row student culture.
So, a practical strategy, separate the moment from the conversation. In the moment, you stop the behavior calmly and briefly. That can be as simple as saying, Bob, stop. Or, I understand that there is a problem right now. We're going to discuss it after class. Now you can go sit back down, go take a break.
Yeah. Later, you can repair privately when both you and the student have regulated or perhaps a bit calmer. That later conversation is where the teaching happens. Here is the restorative justice repair script that is language accessible and works across all ages. It focuses on harm, needs, and next steps.
Question 1, can you tell me what happened?
Question 2, what were you thinking and feeling at the time?
Question 3, who has been affected by your choice and how?
Question 4, what is the plan for next time?
Question 5. What do you need to make things right?
Notice that all of these are questions. This is another mini tip. Avoid the long, drawn-out monologues where you as teacher knows best. Guiding a reparation conversation with questions adds more student accountability to a situation rather than being scolded by an adult.
And let's make it concrete with a real example. A student shouts, kicks a toy, and storms away during a playground argument. In the moment, you might simply say, "Stop, we don't kick toys, go take a breath and sit down. We'll talk in a minute."
Then later, in a calm space, you begin with safety and curiosity. Question 1, can you tell me what happened? Then you just listen. Okay, you don't interrupt, you don't correct, you do not need to argue details because the goal is honesty from their perspective.
Yeah.
If the student feels accused, they will defend, shut down, or perform. If they feel safe, you often get the truth.
Now, question 2. What were you feeling that made you kick the toy and shout? Again, listen carefully and absolutely do not correct a student's vulnerability, sharing their thoughts and feelings or perspective. In fact, it can be a powerful tool to validate those feelings.
Now move to question 3. Who was affected by your shouting and kicking? Keep this very simple for EAL learners. Perhaps even act out the situation again for them and respond to the situation. If the student can't identify how others were affected, you can plainly state what you observed. Try to keep this as an objective observation without your own interpretation. This is like building the empathy.
Yes,
empathy.
Exactly. Yep. Next, ask question number 4. What's the next step? This is where teachers often go too big. Keep the plan small and teachable. Next time you feel frustrated, what is one thing you will do? For example, raise a help card, ask an adult for support, or step to the calm corner for a minute. And then you practice it, even for 10 seconds. Practice is what actually makes it real.
Step 5. What do you need to do to repair this? Or what do you need to repair this? Needs vary widely by culture and family expectations. Some students need time before repairing. Some need reassurance that they still belong in the group, even though they had a moment, So you ask, what do you need right now to be ready to repair? And if they cannot answer, you offer options. Do you need water? Do you need a quiet minute? Do you need help starting the task? Or do you need a break card?
And this step should not be a forced apology performance either. Repair should be meaningful and culturally sensitive. In some cultures, a direct apology is expected. In others, actions matter more than words. So you give choices. How can you repair it? You can say sorry. You can replace what was damaged. You can write a short note. You can do a kind action for the group. You can help reset the space. The point is accountability without humiliation.
Now let's do a quick second example because this one is really common internationally. A student laughs when someone else makes a mistake. And the other child clearly feels embarrassed. In that moment, you stop it briefly. We do not laugh at mistakes. We'll talk about this later.
Later, the repair conversation needs to address harm and belonging. What happened? What did you do? What happened to your classmate? Then add the cultural lens. In your home, what happens when someone makes a mistake in public?
That question can unlock huge insight. You may learn that mistakes are often treated really harshly at home. Or you might learn that laughter is the family's stress response or that teasing is normalized in their family. I know that many of us secondary teachers and you secondary teachers out there listening, you might be thinking, I do not have time for this kind of thing between my classes. My day is not like a primary school teacher's day. I'm sorry, we think that all the time. I see those kids 45 quick minutes, and then I have 5 minutes to go to the bathroom before my next class starts. But as a secondary school leader, I have seen far too many easily solvable issues escalated up to the vice principal or the pastoral lead way too quickly.
And remember, teachers, every time you skip the opportunity to have a restorative conversation with a student, and instead you quickly escalate it up to the chain of command, you've taken away your own opportunity for community and trust building within your classroom. Your authority can diminish in the eyes of the student.
By implementing these simple steps and trying to respond in these culturally sensitive ways to seemingly problematic behavior, you're actually building authority and respect in your classroom.
Absolutely. And then the next step, it becomes teachable. In this class, we protect each other when we make mistakes. Next time, what will you do instead?
And repair could be a private apology, a supportive comment later, or a small action that restores safety for the other student.
Repair is a protection mechanism. It reduces violence, reduces shame, and protects the child's dignity while still holding accountability.
When schools adopt this model consistently from the start and they revisit it during transition times and throughout the school year, students learn that mistakes lead to learning and repair, not fear.
And that is how behavior systems become stable in international communities where people come and go, but the values stay consistent.
Let's talk about the part of behavior work that many international teachers find really stressful: parent conversation.
Dun, dun, dun.
So true. Parent conversations can be really scary, especially when behavior, culture, expectations, and high emotions even add into the mix and collide.
Yeah, and we want to say this clearly. If parent conversations feel heavy or draining for you, that does not mean you're doing something wrong. Yeah. Parent conversations and parent meetings were terrifying for me up until I became a parent. Yep. But now I realize parents usually just want the truth about how their child is doing for most of their day when they're with you.
That's so funny that you say that, because I also had the full shift in parent communication once I became a parent. I just want to know how I can help you, teacher lady, make my beautiful little son the perfect little person I know he can be. But an international school setting adds complexity to these conversations, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Because families are also technically paying your salary in this private school setting, and their satisfaction with the school and with you can sometimes feel like it takes precedence over sharing hard truths about their child.
Yes, but the goal of parent conversations around behavior is not to convince or defend anything. Yeah. Sometimes we can truly forget this idea. The goal is to reduce escalation and build shared understanding together.
And that starts with structure. One of the most effective tools we've seen is a simple meeting structure that keeps the conversation grounded. It's about going into a behavior conversation with a clear and direct plan.
Yes. Step 1 of that plan, start with shared goals. For example, start the meeting with, we all want Sue to feel safe, supported, and successful at school. This immediately lowers defensiveness and reminds everyone that you're all on the same team here.
It's really true. It's hard to argue with that kind of opening
No,
statement. Really? We are? Step 2, describe what you're seeing without interpretation. Ooh. Stick to the observable facts. During group work, Sue had left her seat 3 times and raised her voice at others twice. Avoid labels like disruptive, rude, defiant. These words invite debate.
Man, I just led a training on objective versus subjective observations, and you would be surprised how challenging it is to really discern the two.
Think police report facts. Yeah. That's what I keep telling Brandi to tell them.
Yeah.
Police report facts.
Smart.
Yeah, it is. And we're all wired to jump to like meaning and interpretation.
Yeah, definitely. So here's a simple filter that helps. Ask yourself, what did I see? What did I hear? Or what did I count? For example, instead of saying, Sue is angry that her father left on his business trip and she's been acting out. No, pause.
Don't say that. Sure, it might be a possible explanation that Sue shared that morning in circle time, overshare. But now rewind to the observable data you saw.
Yes.
What did you see or hear? Sue pushed another student during recess. Sue shouted at a peer when her pencil was taken.
Yes, those are the facts. Those are the things that you share with the parents. Note, Trish did not say the other student's name of the other child whose pencil was stolen. That is sometimes what parents focus on when you do, so be careful. Instead, when you separate observation from interpretation, conversations stay calmer, clearer, and far less personal. It puts you in the role of curious investigator rather than the hardened judge.
Okay. Next is step 3, explain the school's system, not your personal opinion. This is where many international conversation shift in tone happens. Instead of saying, I think your child should fill in the blank, you say, at our school, we teach behavior the same way we teach learning skills. Then you explain what expectations look like, how they're taught, and how they're reinforced.
A helpful phrase bank here might include something like, this is how we support students when expectations are not met, or this is what your child is learning to practice at school, or this is how we help students reflect and repair when mistakes happen.
Yeah. Notice that none of these phrases blame culture.
No.
They anchor the conversation in the system.
Yes. Step 4, now it's time to invite the parent's perspective. This is not performative listening. It is essential.
You might ask, what does it look like at home? Or is there anything that we should know that could help support Sue better?
Parents often share information here that changes how behavior is understood.
Step 5, clarify the roles and the next steps. Be explicit about what the school will do and what you are asking of the family, if anything. Ambiguity creates anxiety and a lot of follow-up emails usually.
Yay, we love those. Now, everything we've just mentioned can be done with you as the class teacher calling in a parent. But of course, it's time to ask yourself, when is it time to involve leadership? Remember, teachers, not every behavior issue needs escalation, but patterns do. If behavior is persistent, if it's escalating, or it's impacting safety or learning, leadership should be brought in right away. You should have already had some of these documented in your teacher notes or in the student behavior sheet in your learning management system, like Toddle or Engage or whatever you have.
Whatever you use, absolutely. And that leadership involvement from your notes is not a direct indication of teacher failure. Instead, it can actually be a sign of a functioning system, which we hope you have. But if you do have a small school and there's only one part-time teacher leader or a VP in charge of handling these issues, really make sure that you are clear on what you can handle alone and what you really need to move up the potentially stretched thin leadership team chain. Timeliness when dealing with behavior issues is key.
Yeah, and that's when documentation protects everyone involved. Keep notes brief, factual, and pattern focused. Include dates, behaviors observed, supports that you've tried, and the responses to the supports. And try to avoid emotional language or any speculation.
This documentation does 2 things for you. It supports consistency if multiple adults have witnessed it and are involved. And it gives leadership the context that they need to back you effectively and to show patterns that they might have not actually witnessed themselves when they're in that meeting.
Right. And one important last point, strong schools back teachers publicly and they handle disagreement privately. If that's not happening, behavior conversations become much harder for everyone.
Parent conversations should not be about winning. They are about seeking clarity. When expectations are clear, systems are consistent, and communication is calm, conflict decreases.
And that benefits students, families, and teachers alike.
Before we wrap up, we'd like to remind you to check the unique resources we've created for you to support behavior in your classroom. You can find these in the show notes below and at connectedglobal.org.
All right, let's quickly pull together what we covered in today's Teacher Toolbox episode. We started with how strong behavior in international classrooms begins long before things go wrong, through clear routines, explicit teaching, and predictable reinforcement.
Right. Then we talked about why teaching expectations like curriculum, making them visible and revisiting them regularly prevents most behavior issues before they even escalate.
We then moved into culturally responsive corrections, focusing on how to address behavior without punishing cultural differences or damaging relationships.
That included using neutral, teachable corrections, preserving student dignity, and creating safe spaces for students to be honest when private conversations are needed.
We also looked at the role of transition in international settings and why behavior often reflects adjustment rather than defiance.
We shared practical ways to support students through change, including transition check-in, buddy structures, predictable routines, and early pattern recognition.
And finally, we explored what effective repair looks like across cultures.
Effective repair that focuses on harm, needs, and next steps, avoids that public shame, and helps students learn from mistakes rather than fear them.
And if there's one takeaway, it's this. Behavior improves when students feel safe, understood, and clear about what's expected.
And this work is ongoing. It's not about doing it perfectly. It's about doing it intentionally.
If this episode connected with your experience, we'd really love to hear from you. What behavior challenges have you seen in your international setting? And what helped you shift your perspective?
You can share your thoughts with us or visit connectedglobal.org to explore more conversations like this, access practical resources like checklists and guides, as well as join the Connected Global community.
When you join our community, you'll receive quarterly insights from us, including reflections, tools, and updates designed to support you wherever you are in your international journey.
And as always, you can book a consultation with us through the website.
Yes.
We're happy to talk through choices you're facing or anything you're navigating, from behavior systems to leadership dynamics to your next move abroad.
So, until next time, may your expectations be clear,
your systems be supportive,
and your classrooms feel steady
and international.
I was thinking we could do 2 T's for... Sorry. So gross.
4 episodes again.
4, not 8, 4, not 16, 4. A strain from literally doing nothing, being supported.
I'll support you. Let's talk about Let's talk about me.
Want to talk about me?
I want to talk about number one. Oh my me my.
Oh, I thought it was my me.
Oh my me my.
My oh my.
What
Okay,
I think, what I want, what I love. Oh, gotta love Toby Keith.